Hi guys, this is Emily Cupely for TheAlleyWayStamps, and for today's card I'll be using the Breakfast Club stamp set. I selected 3 cups and mounted them on an acrylic block. I will stamp them on Strathmore watercolor paper using my archival ink in sepia, which is a waterproof ink. I am stamping on the smoothest side of the paper to get a good impression of the images. I already fussy cut the same cups out of some post-it notes, and I am placing them over the images on my watercolor paper. This will be my mask. Now I'm stamping another cup, which will be on the back. Remember that you must first stamp the images you want in the front, and then the images you want in the back. In this case, first row of cups, first stamping. Second row of cups, second stamping, and so on. Then I will decorate the cups in the back using the stamps included in the set. For this first cup, I'm using the zigzag dotted line to add some diamonds pattern. Notice that I mask the areas to the sides of the cup and the cups around it to contain the pattern in the cup area. If the pattern is in the back, everything in the front is masked. For the second cup, I used the line in the set. For this card, I'll keep the colors in the pink and green range. I will also use some brown as the neutral color. I started with my distress inks in Worn Lipstick, Spun Sugar, and Evergreen Bow, but will be using Pixie Raspberry as well. To start coloring, I used some clean water to wet the area I want to color using my small round brush. Then I add a thin layer of ink, which works as my base color. Anyhow, sometimes I start adding the base color at the same time I wet the paper. This way I accelerate the process a little bit and can see better the areas I already wet. Once the area is wet and has the base color, I start adding shadows. I usually add the shadows using the same color or a similar color to the base. For the base, I use either a color lighter than the color I will use in the shadows, or the same color I will use for the shadows but diluted with more water. For example, I can use Spun Sugar as the base color and Warm Lipstick for the shadows, or Warm Lipstick with more water for the base, and the same warm lipstick with less water for the shadows. Now, for the shadows, you can also use a purplish or bluish color like Stormy Sky or Dusty Concord, depending on how dark is the base already. If you prefer, you can simply use a gray or black for the shadows. Technically, the bluish or purplish colors are the correct colors for the shadows. But it is your card, so you are the one who decides what color you prefer to use. For me, it is much easier to simply use the same color but darker. But sometimes it's nice to experiment as well. After all, it is all about practice. I'm trying to keep the colors away from the same color. Even when the cup with the heart, which is pink, is right next to the one in the back, which has the diamonds in pink, the pink color of one cup is not right over the pink color of the other. This way it has more contrast, which I really like. For watercoloring, you can use your watercolor paints, pencils, or markers as well. I do not have any of those, so I simply use my distress ink pads, which I really love since they have beautiful colors and work with other techniques as well. Regarding the masking technique, you can use different mediums to mask. You can use post-it notes, as I did today, liquid masking, or even glossy accents to mask an area and avoid getting ink on it. Now, just as a quick note, as you probably know, Spanish is my native language, and my English is a little rusty. I apologize if I say anything wrong, and truly appreciate when any of you help me in any way to improve it. So feel free to let me know if I keep pronouncing or saying anything wrong. It really helps me a lot. Okay, back to the card. If you are having problems with your watercoloring, try using a wing of Stella in clear instead of a brush and water. With water, if you wet too much your brush, the color can easily get out of the lines. At least for me, with the wing of Stella, it's easier to keep the color inside the lines. Another thing you can try is to keep the brush inside the lines of the image, not over the lines. Also, add a layer of color and wait until it is dry before adding more color. If you added shadows to your image and you want them to be even darker, wait until it's dry and then add more color and darkness. For the background, I'm using a bigger brush. Mine is an angled brush, but you can use a round brush if you prefer. I am coloring the bottom part with my frayed burlap distress ink. You could have used any color, but I feel brown colors add a lot to the coffee theme. I added some shadows below the cups as well. Anyway, I ended up trimming my panel a little bit. For the upper part of the panel, I'm using the antique linen distress ink. For this area, I'm not adding any shadows. I am simply adding the base color. Here, I already trimmed my panel. Once it's dry, I will add some antique linen all around it using my sponge dauber. Anyway, this is the sponge dauber I use for my tea-dye distress ink. So I am basically adding a mix of both inks. Since the bottom part is darker, I will use my vintage photo distress ink there. I'm also going to add this ink to these two scallop borders here, as well as to two thin strips of cardstock. For the scallop borders, I used my border punch from American Crafts and the pink paper with the tiny hearts from my Mon Ami paper pad. Now, I will glue everything on an A2 card base I created using my Desert Storm cardstock from Nina. I started gluing the main panel and then will glue the strips of paper, including the one with the scalloped edge. I use a clean and dry paper towel to make pressure on these pieces and make sure they stick well. Then I'll cut the excess of the paper and will round the lower corners using my X-Acto corner rounder punch. Also, we'll add some distress stickles in clear rock candy, which is a completely clear glitter and kinda looks like sugar. Since it doesn't has any iridescent effect, it doesn't add any color at all, only adds some shine and texture to the card. Finally, we'll go around the edges with my Signo Broad White gel pen to add some stitched lines. And here is the final result. Masking along with watercoloring or any other medium you prefer for coloring is great to add dimension without the need of additional layers of cardstock. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the TheAlleyWayStamps channel as well as my channel if you are not subscribed yet. Remember to visit both blogs to see the full list of supplies and more close-up pictures. Here are two other cards in case you missed them. The first one is a balloon shaker card where I show you how to stretch your stamps. In the second card, I used the same stamp set I used today. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!